This video is of Douglas Murray, who was on Elon Levy's podcast recently talking about how do we solve the Hamas problem.
So how do we solve the problem of the Hamas death cults?
A really, really important thing
Because this war has been going on for far too long and I really want it to end already. So
Yeah,
what's Douglas Murray's idea for how we defeat the Hamas death cult?
Well, the first thing is that I've said from the beginning of the conflict that the question was not, is this the fourth or fifth Gaza war in preparation for the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, and so on, but is it the last Gaza war? Is this the third Lebanon war or the last Lebanon war? And I'm for it being the last Gaza war, last Lebanon war. I don't believe it's sustainable if you have to sustain it and you have no other choice, but it's pretty unsustainable for a country to have a war in the south every few years and a war in the north every decade and a half or so. It's to say it's suboptimal is to deeply understate things. I believe the most important thing is, and again, it's something I've said a lot through this conflict, but I reiterate, people have this misunderstanding, particularly in the West, among naive policymakers and others, that the conflict ends around the negotiating table, and I don't think it does. I think the conflict ends with Hamas losing and Israel winning, with Hezbollah losing and Israel winning, with the Iranian revolutionary government losing and Israel winning. And other people might want the mullahs to win. Okay, fine. I don't. I want Israel to win this conflict. And for that to happen, it's not enough that Hamas is defeated and its backers are defeated. They have to know that they've lost, and they have to pay a price for starting the war. That's why, although there's much that needs to be fleshed out in Trump's plan, that's why I'm not by any means opposed to what he's suggested. I think that there's no reason why, in the whole history of warfare, if a state continuously fights wars of aggression and invasion and attempted annihilation of its neighbors and keeps on losing, that it should keep on getting a chance to do it again. I think they should lose. And in the case of the Palestinians, the Arabs of Gaza, that will include losing territory. And that's as it should be, to my mind. And they should know they've lost. And that's the price you pay for invading your neighbors and killing them. You don't just get to start again from the status quo ante. You don't get to just pretend you didn't do it and try again a few years later. You lose, and that includes losing your territory. Maybe all of it, maybe some of it, but yeah, that's the price you pay. That's the price you pay for starting a war, and that's the price you certainly should pay for losing it.
Which is anathema to the consensus across so much of the world.
Of course.
Where the belief
is why the war would keep going if they had their way.
Absolutely. Israel says that it's fighting for total victory. And the fact that Hamas is holding hostages as insurance so that the IDF cannot fight freely is an enormous problem for that pursuit of victory over Hamas, quite apart from the humanitarian situation of the hostages. But there is this belief around the world that wars end when both sides are fed up of fighting, instead of when one side loses, one side wins, and peace is the losing side accepting the terms of its defeat. But the world keeps saving Hamas and the Palestinians from the consequences of their own loss.
And they shouldn't be saved from the consequences. They shouldn't be continuously saved from the consequences of their leadership turning down a state in the 1940s, turning down a state again and again in the decades since. They should not keep on being saved from the consequences of their leadership paying for terrorism, rewarding terrorism, paying the families of terrorists. They shouldn't be saved from any of this. The infantilization of the Palestinians, as you mentioned earlier, is an unbelievable thing, and it's gone on for quite long enough. And I don't believe that they are infants. I don't believe they do need the great protection of the West and everyone else to try to lead them out of this. I think that their failures, the failures of their leadership and everything, should have a cost.
I couldn't agree more. I do think that their failures of leadership not only have a cost, but they need exposure. They need exposure to all of the people who think that, I don't know, honestly, man, like, I feel like I say the same thing all the time. And it's starting to just get so repetitive because when you're trying to continue to convey an effective message, and especially the truth, you don't really have to find so many different ways to say something if it's the truth. The truth should remain as it is. You don't have to start making things up. You don't have to start being fancy. Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthi rebels, the IRGC, all of these enemies in the Middle East that operate on a completely different code of conduct than anyone in the West, can begin to comprehend. It's incomprehensible for them because they've never even been here. All of them are classified terrorist groups. These classified terrorist groups that are classified as terrorist groups by the United Nations, these people, these groups have a pursuit in their life to strictly annihilate people. That is all they want to do. They want to kill others, and sometimes they want to kill themselves. That is how the Middle East operates. It's how it's always operated before the establishment of the State of Israel. So don't use Israel as your card to make an excuse for why we have the issues we do today about the Middle East. But most people in America, most people in Canada, most people in the West have never been to the Middle East. And they only know what it's like in their street in San Diego, or New York, or Brazil, or Toronto. They only know what it's like there. They have only one lens and one perspective and a frame of reference to their own life. They have no clue what the jungle is. The Middle East and the West, two separate entities. Terrorism in America, terrorism in the Middle East, two separate things. There are different forms of terrorism. The form of terrorism that exists in the Middle East is a form of terrorism that no elite college student has any real authority and should never have the audacity to comment on. They don't know it. They have no idea what it stems from. They've been indoctrinated. There's a reason they'll never know. They've been told that they can't know another narrative, that another narrative doesn't exist. That is the finest definition of indoctrination. You cannot challenge a narrative. If you want to challenge a narrative in a place like Gaza, if you want to challenge a narrative in a place like Iran, if you want to challenge a narrative in a place like all of these, what happens to you? What happens to your family? There are so many signs. The writing is on the wall, people. I feel like I want to write a book about this, about the obvious signs that anyone in the world who doesn't understand a lot about the Middle Eastern conflict, but can just look at behavior, can look at actions, can look at messaging, can look at intention, can look at delivery, can look at reputation. It's all there. The fact that we need more people like me to talk about this every day it's an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment because that means that we have people that are so low IQ, or that they're selectively choosing not to actually see things for how it is because they don't want to damage things that they've been told are true their whole lives when they're not true. I live in Israel. You should come here and see it for yourself. And then you know what? I'll let you at least share your opinion. I might not agree with it, but I'll let you share it because you've been here. It's just enough. Stop saying so many deep, opinionated, thought-provoking things online and amongst your friends and your family when you really don't know shit. It's the last thing that anybody in the world should comment on, is the Middle Eastern conflict. You shouldn't comment on North and South Korea if you don't know it. You shouldn't comment on Russia and Ukraine if you don't know it. You shouldn't. You shouldn't. Sorry. Reading about it doesn't give you an authority to you have to go see. Go understand it for yourself. What? You go and see it for yourself and you're not wearing goggles, you're actually living it, it's not a dream, and you're suddenly seeing things that you told didn't exist or were not true and you're seeing them? What, are you going to undo that? Then you're just a liar. You're willfully lying. You're choosing to lie. Most people who haven't formed an opinion yet, that aren't saying anything, I'm encouraging you. I'm encouraging you, bro. Go to Israel. Come here. Go to the Middle East. If you could go to Gaza, I would tell you to go there because I would have done so myself. We can't. We can't go there. Why can't I go there? Ask. Ask in the comment section why other Barack can't go to Gaza. Not because I'm an American. Because I'm a Jew. Because I'm an Israeli. But why are Arab people allowed to live in Israel? Why is 20% of the population in Israel Arab? Why were Palestinians up until October 6th allowed into the southern parts of Israel to work and earn a better living because their own people won't pay them? Why? It's all in front of you. And you know what would be very beneficial? If you think that I'm not telling the truth, if you claim that I'm not telling the truth, prove me wrong by coming here. Come here. If you prove me wrong, I'll shut up, I'll delete my channel, and I'll stop exposing the hypocrisy. But why would I stop exposing the hypocrisy if I know the truth? You can't be silent when you know the truth. The truth is too good, it's too important not to tell. That's the point. Thank you so much for all your support. I'll see you next time. If you want to continue the conversation, you can support my work for free. Discord does not cost a thing. It is the best way to connect with me and others who are seeking the truth. The link is in the description. But if you want to take it one step further, my Patreon gives you access to the Israel you don't see, uncovering the untold stories of what mainstream media does not show you. The link is in the description and it helps me to continue this work. Or if you're just looking to help this thing go, PayPal and Buy Me a Coffee is a really easy way to support me. This channel, this work does not happen without all of you. Thank you. I love you. I'll see you next time.